Hello and welcome to today's Courage Talk on takethecourage.com. I'm so happy to be able to share this talk with you today. My guest is Stephanie Bischof. She is the Managing Director of Airfix. How she got there from a corporate job and more about her courage, her determination, you're going to hear in a little while. So lean back, enjoy the talk, and get inspired by Stephanie's journey. Stephanie, welcome to the talk. So nice to have you here today with me.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yes, a while ago. It's really a while ago when we met last time. I think that was 4 years ago or so.
It was still when I was working at Swarovski.
Yeah, that was totally another environment, another kind of work you're doing. And today you stand as Managing Director of Airfix. So what happened? What did you do in between time?
Yeah, I decided at some point to change from the corporate to the climate side, and let's hope they merge rather soon. But yeah, basically, I think my climate journey began a long time ago. Already when I was little, my father was talking about climate change, and I got educated early on. But last year, I decided to move professionally into the topic.
So maybe we should best take a step back so that people also get to know you a little bit. Who are you and what is actually your story?
Right. So yeah, I'm Stephanie. I'm 36 years old, living in Zurich. I'm Austrian, grew up in a small village in the mountains, studied business and education, and then worked for a bit more than 10 years in corporate finance for various large companies. Enjoyed that very much and learned a lot there. Met a lot of great people that I could learn from, and now I decided to do something different. So last year, as said before, I took a decision to change my careers and merge or migrate more into the climate space. And this is where I'm now.
It's easier said than done. We want to know exactly how you did it, because there are a lot of people there outside. They would love to do something like that. So originally you're a finance expert, you're a controlling expert. And this jump from there to here, how did you develop the idea? And yeah, tell us everything about it.
So what happened was a bit random. I got invited to the movies by a friend. So a good friend of mine, he's in impact investment, and he invited his team to the movies at the lake in Zurich. And he asked me if I wanted to join because they had a spare ticket, and I didn't even know what movie it was. It was
Okay.
a movie that was called Kiss the Ground, and so the movie was about the current agricultural system, how it will not work in the future if we don't change it, how our current agricultural practices together with climate change will lead to a situation where we will not have topsoil anymore to grow food within 60 years if we don't change significantly. And somehow I was probably in a very open state of my life. That statement really hit me, and I went out of the movie, and there was another friend of mine also, and I said, look, I need to understand now the personal implication of having this knowledge gained through the movie. And that was actually the start when I searched for something else to do that had an impact in the climate space. I just realized by understanding this how there are so many topics today that are going into a direction that will lead to very difficult situations for mankind, be it food shortage when you look at this topic, but you know, the Earth's warming or the global warming, it has many implications that are difficult already today for many people in the world. And I think also we in Switzerland, we feel the implications. A couple of months ago, I was at a glacier where I could see how fast that is accelerating.
Really? Mm-hmm.
But of course, my journey was quite long. The movie I saw at beginning of the summer, and And then a journey began. I started to read books. I started to talk to many people, to people from the field. And I collected ideas of what I could do, because it's not obvious where you can apply your capabilities. At least to me, it was not obvious. I had some capabilities from the corporate side. I knew more or less where my strengths are, but I had really not a big idea of how I could apply it in a climate world or in a climate space.
Yeah. Well, in which ways did it take courage? I mean, you did some research, but everything, sounds like, yeah, it was easy. But what was challenging on this way?
Yeah, I think what was not easy at the beginning is where to start. How do I find something that I find meaningful and where I think I can have impact with, and also have impact with the capabilities that I have.
Yeah.
And so, because first it became after reading a couple of books and doing research, it became clear to me that it's also a very big psychological topic, that to change, it's very hard for many people, or for most people, I would say.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then I thought, maybe studying psychology could be something interesting for me. I have a background also in mediation, and this has always been a passion of mine to understand better how humans function, and also how they function in interaction, and how difficult interactions can be made more easy, how you can help people to have more easy interactions. So I thought studying psychology could help me then also to help people to change.
Mm-hmm.
And I went through the whole process of applying for the studies, in fact, and at the end, I had a lot of reflection, of course, about this, and in the end, I decided that it's probably not needed that I invest another 7 years more of a very full-scale study to influence in climate. And that was maybe also the moment when I met people from the climate tech space in Zurich. I got introduced to a few people, and that just happened. So I talked to people. They told me, I know this person. Maybe you want to have a chat. Sounds like they could need somebody like you are. And then this whole new space opened up, and I found their idea fascinating. And I understood that actually these guys, they need people like me. That was a great moment for me to understand that I could very fast actually migrate into something that I find very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is exactly that. What was astonishing for me is it was really fast. I mean, I think you got where you wanted to get, I don't know, in between of about 6 months or so. Was that
it was more
a bit
9
more?
months, but
yeah, but still,
it was not too long. Yes.
Yeah.
But I think I had, on the one side, I had a very strong determination to find something.
Yeah.
And that, of course, helped me to move fast. And on the other hand, something very interesting happened to me also on this way, which was that somehow I got hit by, this eco-anxiety phenomenon. When you dive more deeply into all the things that are happening today, it might happen that you get anxious about what happens in the future.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this happens to many people today, and it paralyzes people,
exactly.
when they get are fearful, they cannot move anymore. So I also discussed this also with various people, friends, but also then people who know more about these psychological move or happenings, and I could overcome this also quite fast. And then actually when I understood that I can become active in this space myself, I got a lot of energy out of it. Actually, the reverse thing happened first.
Yeah.
Paralysis happens in a way, and then you get all this energy when you actually engage yourself and become active.
It's all probably about, if we want to summarize it, kind of to take it step by step.
I think the step-by-step approach helps in general. And when I got proposed first this role that I'm doing now, I felt this was so very big, and I couldn't imagine how I could do this.
Yeah.
And at least that was my very initial reaction. I found the idea very exciting, but yeah, it seemed very ambitious to me. And then I gave this feedback to Dirk, who was talking to me about this idea, and he said, look, Steffi, this is being done like everything in life, step by step.
Yeah.
And this is how we do it now.
So it took courage to be open and basically start to discover, the way I understand it. Because as you mentioned, you started talking to people, and then one person did refer you to, and then the next is that, or what you would say is also very important in this kind of phase, to really be courageous and go out and talk to people.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, one thing that needs courage is maybe to position yourself in a certain way, to if you really think that climate or any other topic, is important, and you voice that also in a broader sense. Probably takes some courage at the beginning. And then the other thing that was a bit difficult to me was to imagine a different career path, because I was on a 10 years plus finance career path, and it was quite clear to me where it would go. The 5 years plan was there in a way, and then you're going out from there, and somehow you perceive that you're going into a more unsafe space, because you are used to the corporate structures, and how to move there, and with whom to talk, and so you're just used to that environment, so it somehow becomes your comfort zone, and then thinking that you would go into a space where you are not as knowledgeable, at least at the beginning, and you don't know exactly how things work there. It takes a bit of courage to engage with that thought and take the decision.
Yeah. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about that? How did you do that? Any tips on your reflection to say, how did you determine then to say, I'm able to, beside the encouragement of your environment?
Right. Yeah, I think what helps me in general, but that's also maybe my personality, that to exchange with other people, and to learn from other people's experiences, that helps a lot. To maybe to talk to people who have experienced transformative situations. Maybe they transferred their skills from one thing to the other, helps to understand how this can actually work. But then also to just understand what are the kind of activities that you could do in a climate space. What are the type of jobs that are around there, even what are the type of activities that are needed at the moment. So to understand somehow what is needed, how a transformation process can work. And then I think maybe the first step would be to understand what can you actually bring, and what do you want to bring. Because I think in this space it's even more important to understand a bit your purpose, what you stand for, what gives you energy, what skills do you have, what can you bring, and what might they not have at this moment. So to know yourself a bit better first might help as well.
Yeah, I think it's very essential, especially when we talk about purpose. Yeah. I mean, purpose is a huge word, and a lot of people can't start anything with it. So what is actually my purpose? It's so overwhelming for a lot of people, especially those who have been working for years in, I take as an example, the corporate environment. And yeah, it's not easy to really then take the courage to say, okay, I want to find it out. Even if I don't know it, I can find it out. And maybe, some people might not call it. For some people, it's better if they don't call it purpose, because they just are overwhelmed. But the bigger picture, the whatever is you want to go towards, to also a little bit connected, not only a little bit, but if you look at it holistically, from what's my life and where do I want to get, and my job is part of it, and then go bigger. Was there something
Yeah,
also which
this is
helped you to kind of think holistic, in a holistic way, life and work?
I would say so, but I think this is personal. So I know people that are, separating things very clearly, but I have never been that person. So somehow I always integrated, where I want to go in both my private and my professional life. So in that sense, I think this situation right now, it fits very well.
Yeah.
Since it really summarizes also my where I want to go personally. But I think, to find out what is your purpose, it is a very long journey. Leadership trainings in companies, of course, help to determine your values, but then also, following what you stand, or following what moves you somehow. Also, it helps you to get closer to your purpose. What actually interests you? Where are you moved? Where do you get emotional?
Yeah, exactly.
To observe yourself well in a longer time period, it can really help you to get closer to who do you are, and what is your purpose.
Yeah. And it's the entire thing is a journey, as you say it as well. It takes development and it takes time. And when I work with people, it's not necessarily that people come to me and say, I want to find out my purpose, but it's rather a change. Somehow I'm not happy. And then when they go deeper into the reflection and find out more about themselves, etc., and then at some point these talks come up then. To really then think bigger and allow themselves to basically, take the courage to allow themselves to go deeper. And then bigger questions come up, like
Sure.
purpose. And
Yeah.
it's so inspiring. It's so inspiring that how people perceive that and how people work with it then.
To think bigger, that is sometimes very difficult, because you are used to
Think small.
somehow think small, but you're used to the thinking that happens in the frame that you are in, right? I've always worked in corporate finance departments, and somehow this was the world that I knew. Of course, in different environments and in different setups, and as a team leader or not as a team leader. So of course there was some variation, but ultimately I didn't start the process thinking that I would lead a new idea.
So Stephanie, you went through all these experiences, and if you wanted to summarize it for people who would like to also go for their purpose and make it bigger, what would be your 2 or 3 tips for those people on the way?
So for me, it all started with a decision. So I decided to change my career to have a climate angle. And with that, I got a determination to find that. So for me, this decision was very central, this moment. And then the other thing is also to be open. So since I was very unclear at the start how this could look like, would I want to follow this in a corporate environment where I was before, or where I was until that moment, or would I want to, change completely and go to a different environment? I just really didn't know. So what I really needed was openness to various ideas. So this is why I talked also to many different people to understand what could be there and what could be the options. So I think for me, these two things, taking a decision and then being open, really helped me to find this.
So the courage to make a decision and to be open. Stephanie, a lot of people struggle, especially with the topic of network, when they decide to do something new and to go out and be open and discover, to really get to the right network. Do you have a special tip there, how they be even more courageous and do it in a good way?
Oh, well, a good way is always a big
Whatever
word,
it means.
I didn't have a network in the climate space when I started this journey. I didn't know people who work directly in the topic or in the field. So what I did at the beginning was I went to events, maybe to a podiums discussion in Zurich, or I remember the Kunsthaus had some event on climate, and sometimes I would also ask the people on the stage, if they had tips or if they had any ideas to follow, and then sometimes I got funny answers, sometimes I got very helpful answers. In any case, all these answers and ideas helped me to form my own.
Yeah.
In that sense, you don't, I think, need a big network to start this process. Doesn't matter what kind of topic you want to follow. And then what happened to me was that when I talked to personal contacts, friends, colleagues at work, they actually, some of them knew other people, and then they asked me, would you want to have lunch with my friend Stefan, he's in that and that field, and then I did that, and this is how I started to build a network in this climate space, and I met people with very clear ideas on what could be done.
Yeah, dare to ask, simply ask, basically.
Yeah.
The secret
But
formula.
of course, not everybody is so keen on meeting people that you don't know. But I think this makes you sometimes you sometimes have to go a bit out of the comfort zone to do
Exactly.
this.
Yeah.
But I think usually when you have an interesting idea and other people have a similar something similar to contribute to a conversation, it is usually worthwhile doing it. But of course, I understand that this sometimes takes a bit of courage to start.
And at the end of the day, it's then the determination and the inner urge to then really follow up and go and basically work out a strategy how to move forward. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about AFX. So what is the mission of AFX? And does AFX need courage, or in which ways does AFX need courage in order to be successful?
So AirFix has a vision to make a market around biogenic carbon removals. And this is maybe a bit cryptic for somebody who has never heard of it. But basically, the UN climate report says that we need, apart from reductions, we need a lot of reductions of CO2 emissions and also the other gases like methane and so on. But it will not be enough. So what we also need is technical solutions, how we can get CO2 out of the air. So CO2 that is already out there, how can we get it somehow back to prevent that the Earth's warming is accelerating or continues to accelerate. And what carbon removals are is really negative emissions. So you take CO2 out from the atmosphere, and there are various ways how you can do it. There's one big idea out there, a very successful company in Zurich, Climeworks, showcased that, which is kind of a big vacuum cleaner that sucks in air and then gets out CO2, and this CO2 is then liquefied and stored in the ground. So this is one option. But what AirFix is doing is another option, which is capturing the CO2 at point sources. And point sources are, in some processes, it will be very hard to get rid of your emissions. In a production process, you can use renewable energy. That might be not easy, but that might be feasible to get rid of your emissions. But if you have a process where you burn material, for instance, this is where it is hard to get rid of them. So the UN climate report has determined some areas that they call hard to abate. And for instance, waste to energy plants, so waste incineration plants or biogas plants, or other plants that incinerate material. It can also be in the cement area where you need very hot temperatures to build the material. Those areas have been determined that you should capture the emissions directly where they come out, let's say. And you need to build up infrastructure at these plants to be able to capture the emissions. And then you have to bring these emissions somewhere where you can store them, either in a process. So there's use cases. For instance, today they can make concrete and put CO2 in, so that it is stored in a permanent way. But these use cases are usually not so big yet. So this is hopefully going to be very big in the future. But then today we are looking at storing it underground. And this is sounds quite futuristic, but you can today store emissions in, for instance, basalt soil in Iceland. This is a type of soil that is out of porous stone, and so in between the stones there is kind of holes, and if you inject CO2 there, the CO2 finds a place and mineralizes within 2 years, so it doesn't go into the atmosphere anymore. Or another option is that you take a depleted oil field, so it is very deep in the ground, an area where you pumped oil out before. Now there is space, so you can get the CO2 in, and it gets trapped in the ground. The CO2 gets trapped, and it also doesn't go into the atmosphere anymore. So these are the options that we are looking at today. And this is obviously very complicated. So on the one side, it's very important because you really capture the emissions in a very concentrated way, where they get created in the process, and so they don't go into the atmosphere anymore. And on the other hand, it's really complicated and very expensive to do this today. So especially in the point source area, there is hardly commercial projects. In Europe, there is none so far. There is some subsidized projects, but we have to develop this in a way that it can become larger, because only when you can capture emissions at many point sources, it becomes relevant for climate. So our aim is really to create a few projects. We are currently focused on Switzerland, but we are not only working in Switzerland, but we want to create a few projects that show that this is possible, and that this is possible at scale.
Yeah. What's the biggest challenge there for you as the driver of the topic?
Well, first the challenge was to get into the topic, but it is a fairly young industry, so you learn together. It's a very collaborative environment. You can learn from a lot of players in this field, which is great. Now the challenge is obviously more on the process, but then especially also on the financing side. Maybe on the process side, it is very hard to transport CO2 today from one place to the other, because there is no dedicated infrastructure. So this is something that we are discussing with various stakeholders in Switzerland and also in other countries. And then the second thing is, who pays for these processes? There is hardly any regulation around it today. Regulation is going to come. We have confidence that this is going to happen in not immediately, but in the midterm. And then it becomes more clear who is paying for it. But today, this is not clear. So we are working with a hypothesis that we will finance the first project with the voluntary carbon market, a very interesting instrument that already today finances a lot of projects, mainly in the nature space.
It's so fascinating. So I guess at this stage in your role, it's not only courage, but probably also courage to always keep going on and not give up. How do you see that?
Yeah, I think we are very convinced that this is the right way. So this gives you obviously a lot of energy to work on this. And there is a lot of very motivated stakeholders involved, and I have to say very courageous stakeholders involved, especially the plants that determine to do this. At this stage, I find them very courageous. I really have a lot of admiration for instance, the waste to energy plants that we are working with here in Switzerland. I have a lot of admiration for their courage to try this, because it's important. They know it's important, and I can also feel their somehow intrinsic motivation to do this. What like of course there's a lot of challenges. I'm just thinking what keeps us going. It is that we see that these challenges are being solved on the way. Since I started, and this is only in May, so many things have happened in this around the carbon removals area and in this space. So not only new ideas, but really concrete work on future regulations and policies that will help these projects. And also we see the amount of projects that are actually interested to start with this. So I would say there is every day a lot of encouraging signs around me to really be very motivated to work
continue.
on it. Yeah,
well,
yeah,
as we say,
absolutely.
courage is contagious. So probably anybody around you, all those people who inspire you, they spread their courage automatically a bit around. Yeah,
Probably,
that helps.
yeah.
That's cool. And you know, I mean, that's a general topic. I mean, it concerns me, it concerns you, it concerns everybody. And lately there was this climate conference, and our world leaders, they talk about all the general regulation. But every one of us can do something every day about it. And there are a lot of people who would like to, but they don't know somewhere how to start, or they are too much in their comfort zone. What would be your advice to those people who just want to contribute something small to the topic?
If you want to contribute small things in climate, I think you have to focus on where you can make most impact. So if you look, for instance, at your own emissions, in Switzerland, we have inland emissions of around 5 tons per person. If you calculate also the emissions that are being created outside of Switzerland for the consumption inland, it's more on the 15 tons. So this is quite significant, and you can look at where these emissions are being created. And I think on a personal level, there might be 3 points, which is just stop flying or fly as little as possible, because this really is a big part of the emissions of Swiss people. If you look at your nutrition, go for meatless, nutrition.
Yeah.
Don't eat too much meat. I mean, you don't have to stop, but just try to minimize it. And the third thing I think is also around heating. We don't need 24 degrees in the apartment in winter. Just wear a pullover, or where you can be at 20 degrees, for instance.
Yeah.
So I think these are the things that you can do on a personal level. But if you really want to be effective, you have to go on a system level, or more systematic level. But you can also do that you can start small by just talking to all your friends and family, because if they get it's contagious. People
yeah.
It's not that they don't like to talk about this topic. They actually do like to talk about this topic and exchange and discuss. Obviously, if you vote for the right party, or if you even go to a party or join a party, that helps a lot. And finally, I think the professional engagement in a way that helps the climate is very, very valuable. And it doesn't have to be that you have to change your job, but you can think about what you can do in your own job, or whom you could influence at work to take decisions that help the climate. Obviously, if that all doesn't work, then you could also look into what could be other options to work in climate-related jobs. So there is a whole variety of things.
I'm hearing.
that you could follow, yeah.
Yeah. I think that Alan starting talking about it would help if
Sure.
we, all of us, create awareness in our families, in our, with friends, instead of talking about holidays we are going next time. Could be talking about
and
flying or not flying or whatever.
You would be surprised how many people have this thought in the back of their heads. Some people are actually afraid, so they it helps them to talk. Or some people, they are maybe concerned for their children, or they would love to do something, but they somehow have nobody to talk about it. So
exactly.
You would be surprised about how eager people are to talk about climate.
Yeah. Well, again, the courage to get out of our comfort zones and look at things in a different perspective, to say, how can we travel otherwise? Does it have to be flying? Does it have all our eating habits or whatever? Everything takes us out of our comfort zone. And I'm contributing. I've started contributing towards it, and I feel okay. I think I'm for that I'm not into it. I'll just continue and emphasize on it.
And often it's not feeling as bad as you would expect it to feel. Don't fly, for instance, anymore.
Okay, it's such an inspiring topic, and we could talk about it for hours and hours. And I hope we can do that next time when we meet in person and drink a cup of coffee. Back to you. What does the future do? Do you have any even bigger visions? Professionally, you did this huge jump now, or privately, something where you say, that's what I want to achieve, and in which ways would that take courage from your side, if you want to share with us?
Sure. So what I think I would encourage myself to do is just to follow what I think is the right thing. And I did this with this job, and so this was kind of the vision that I implemented last year. So I'm very excited to follow this path and to do big things with this company that we have started. And I think that's also an encouragement for your clients. I think just follow what you think is the right thing to do, because you will get a lot of energy from that.
We are nearly at the end of our talk, but you're not going to get out of this talk before we go to our wrap-up courage quiz. Are you ready for it?
Of course.
What is courage for you?
It is getting out of your comfort zone. It's trying something that you don't know yet.
What color is your courage?
Red.
If your courage was an animal, which animal would it be?
Well, maybe it could be an ibex. The guys in the mountains who climbed the most ambitious peaks.
And do you have a role model, a person who does encourage you, motivates you on your way?
I prefer the concept of a mentor to a role model. I've always had mentors who helped me along the way to develop, and I still have that. So actually, at this moment, the person who gave me the idea for this job, Dirk, agreed to be my mentor, and of course that's very helpful to to meet and to discuss, and then to get his recommendations also to how to go forward.
Yeah. Great. That was so inspiring.
Thank you, Dory.
People certainly would want to maybe contact you, or maybe want to help in some way. I don't know. Where can they reach you?
I think the easiest is on LinkedIn.
Okay. So if somebody wants to learn or understand more about Stephanie's courage and about Airfix, then please just contact her via LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Stephanie. We'll be in touch.
All the best for you as well, Dory, and good luck with your courage coaching.
Thank you, and good luck and much success to you guys.
Thank you.